The value of having someone like myself who has extensive experience in hypnotherapy is that we know how to take good, proper care of the people coming up on the stage, the types of people we wouldn't accept on the stage, and the kinds of suggestions we should and should not give on the stage. Examples of that would be whipping somebody back and forth between extreme emotional states. You wouldn't move from laughing, crying, That's too much movement of the emotional energy. That's something that would be, I would call a bozo no-no. I would never have somebody imagine that they're on an airplane and suddenly it's losing altitude or something like that. Who knows if they have a phobia? All of the things I've tested, talked to my friends about, and over 30 years, I know exactly where the line is that would make somebody uncomfortable or not pleased that they had come up on the stage. My goal and my follow-through is to make sure that every person who come up there leaves the stage going, I am so happy I did that. I can't believe how relaxed I got. I can't believe how silly I was able to be, and I just don't care. One of the things that I struggled with for many years is the balance between the therapy and the hilarious entertainment, okay? And for the first few years, I wouldn't even tell the people I was doing therapy with that I did shows, because I didn't want them scared that I was going to be making them into a chicken when they walked into the door. And by the way, we don't do chickens, dogs, ponies. It is a livestock-free show. I draw the line there. I don't think it's funny to make people into animals. I think it's hysterically funny in the right crowd to have the first pregnant man in the universe give birth. I think that's a very educational experience for people and a lot of fun. Would I do it in a junior high school setting? No. Would I do it at a bar bat mitzvah? Probably not. Might I do it at an adults-only convention in Las Vegas? Probably so. But there's an interesting thing, and maybe you can show it on camera later. I actually have a routine list that I send to every single purchaser of the show that gives them in clear order the basic routines I will run so that they have complete veto power over what's going to be gone. So that the event planner or the producer or whoever, or the chairman in that group is not sitting out in the audience going, God, I hope he's going to be appropriate. I hope he doesn't, upset my guests or something. They've got total control of the show because I have no problem giving it to them. And I'm always amused at who says, gee, I really want the pregnant thing. I would have left it out for that particular group. And yet when I show them the list, they go, no, put that in. And I'm, again, surprised at the ones who want it out. So by giving them choice over every portion of the show ahead of time, I've got people who are secure sitting there and they're having just as good a time as their guests are. And I know that I'm always going to be completely appropriate to that group. There's two rules, there's two kind of schools of thought at this point, or at least that's what I get from many of the calls I've gotten. Some people just want a price, they don't want to discuss the entertainment at all, and they want a completely standalone thing. I want to just check this off on my list, I want the right price, I want to know you're good, that's all I want to know, come do your thing, don't bother me. Now, I've done a lot of those, they've been successful, etc., etc., etc. However, the most successful, the most exciting programs I've done, the ones that I think have the greatest impact, is where people take a somewhat opposite approach. They don't want to get hands-on deeply into it, but they do want to have a dialogue with me. They want to tell me as much as they can about the group I'm going to be entertaining, as much as I can about the physical circumstances. What's the psychographic of the group? What's going on with them? Because the more I find out through the person, I can customize that show and make it really theirs. I like to get to an event hours before, sit in the audience, take notes on what people are saying, work it into the group. Recently, I was at the Farmhouse International Fraternity Convention out in Columbus, Ohio. Good 400 people out there. I was able to listen to their Man of the Year, actually it's called the Master Builder Award, and listen to those people give their acceptance speeches. I was actually able to work pieces of what they said into the show in a comical, but a very touching way too. That to me is great entertainment, where it's not just some standalone off-the-shelf, ooh, here's the magic show, here's the hypnotism show, here's the juggler. but somebody who is integrated deeply into the program that evening, whether it's a backyard birthday party or it's a major convention with, you know, other fantastic speakers and entertainers. The show is primarily a comic, hysterical, hilarious bunch of fun. It's the most interactive show going. The stars of the show are the audience itself. It's almost like producing your own talent show, but without rehearsals. So nobody has to do any preparation whatsoever. And my skill is to find the talent, groom it, put it into great skits, circumstances, demonstrations where people are laughing their heads off. I'll give you some wild examples of that. Again, for a more adult type of convention, and I'm not talking about risque or blue or anything like that, I have on occasion turned people into Dr. Ruth Westheimer, the great radio and television sex therapist. Now, in today's world, now for a younger crowd, it would be much more the Loveline show that had Adam Carolla and Dr. See, you guys don't know either, do you? All right, can we plug that in later? No? Okay. There is a spectrum of experience. I can first of all tell you what my experience is being hypnotized. I'm incredibly relaxed. I don't have a care in the world. I feel both light and heavy at the same time. It's easy for me to follow direction. I feel very compulsive about following direction. I feel strong and sturdy, and as I get the different directions, I just have this tremendous compulsion to be very creative and exuberant and huge in my responses. Because of my voice, a couple of people have turned me into a tuba walking around the thing. Boom, 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 boom. Things like that. I've done all sorts of things. If I'm not working that night and there's a hypnotist, I get on the stage so fast, because if you're going to give me an hour during which I have the equivalent of 8 hours sleep, I'll take 3 of those anytime. Before the show that I do, we actually have an announcement that explains who should come up and who shouldn't. People with injuries shouldn't come up. I don't want pregnant women on the stage for obvious reasons. But all those who need a little rest come on up, because the 1 hour of hypnosis equivalent to 8.5 hours of sleep. I think for people, you know, on PartyPOP that particularly want to know, one of the trends has been raunchier and raunchier shows in the last few years. I'm certainly no prude. I have no problem with that, but you've got to know where the line is and know where it is very clearly. The majority, I would say 98% of the people calling me want good, clean family fun, and where no one would be embarrassed, nobody would feel anything was being done improper, either in language or in deed. Another 2%, as I mentioned, an adult convention, a corporate group, not a straight-laced group, but a much more sales-oriented whatever. They want not blue humor, but grown-up humor. That's where we would do the Dr. Ruth, the Pregnant Man, the different things where, okay, that's certainly not a Sweet 16 party. That's a lot beyond that. With those, that is, to me, what I've seen as the major trend in the last few years, is a lot more of the blue stuff, especially going on in Las Vegas. And some people really wanting extreme types of hypnotism shows. Not my thing. Even though the first show I did was at a very drunk fraternity rush party, and they would have slaughtered me if I wasn't a little over the edge. But, you know, different strokes for different folks. Another trend is, and I pioneered this, is making the hypnotism show part of a variety show. Now, you're a little bit too young to remember Ed Sullivan. But back in the day when I was growing up, the Ed Sullivan Show had everybody from the Beatles to the Fire Eaters and the Sword Swallowers and the comics from the Catskill Mountains and all sorts of folks. Over the years, I put together variety shows where I have a mentalist, a comedy magician, a comic coming up, a psychic, all sorts of different people doing 5-minute, 10-minute, 20-minute acts, culminating in the hour to hour 15 hypnotism show. We began to do these as fundraisers. We sold out Pepperdine Smothers Theater last year when we were working together with one of their fraternities as a fundraiser for the organization called Youth AIDS. And myself, mentalist Jonathan Levitt, and comedy magician Sean McMaster, both of which have been on Fox TV last year, we did a phenomenal show where we amused each other and the audience was in hysterics. So that trend, the trend even at the private party to go, how can I mount something really exciting for my people? Not just one show, but 3 different entertainers, 3 kinds of shows, or even 2. Most regularly over the last 10 years, I've been at least having an opening act where there's a 5 to 10 minute comedy magic opener, loosens everybody up, gets them focused. Boom, we have a blackout. The voice of God comes over the loudspeaker and gets you ready for the hypnotism show. And then out I come when we start the fun. I said, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. I'm glad you have doubts. I want to know what they are. The first one is going to be, can you hypnotize people? Okay. My group is very tight. My group is straight-laced. My group is conservative. My group is a little bit withdrawn. They're standoffish. Are you sure you can come in here and produce the results? And I say, that's my job. That's why I've trained to do this. That's why you hire somebody with 31 years of experience. Because I've seen not everything. I'm learning each job. There's still things to learn. But I've seen the majority of things that can ever happen in terms of an audience kind of atmosphere and how to influence it, even manipulate it, to make sure that I get the people who are really responsive. Let's go back to the first thing I said. 1 out of 10 people walk in their sleep. It's not rocket science here. I can either swim to Hawaii or I can fly on an airplane. For me to conduct a successful hypnotism show, I just keep my eye on flying on the airplane. In this case, let's find the 1 out of 10 people who are phenomenally responsive. Now, as the group gets larger, that's more and more and more people. To do a small group, the real skill, and this is where it really pays off to have somebody with experience who knows how to relate to large amounts of very different kinds of people and be able to form rapport with them very, very quickly. I will normally attend the event hours before showtime, mingle with the people, sit and eat dinner with a number of people, tell some of my stories, listen to theirs. Invariably, the people who I sit with at dinner end up producing a few volunteers for the show who are terrific because they're no longer scared of me. I ate with them, they know I'm not going to bite their nose off, they feel comfortable enough going into hypnosis. Second thing that people are going to ask is, are you funny? I'll never forget when Northrop Ventura was closing, the Northrop company was closing down, was it 15 more years ago? They called me up and the first thing they said was, are you funny? I said, who wants to know? And I said, listen, this is not really a party, this is a wake. You really have to be funny because no one wants to really be there. We're all leaving and the plant's closing down. I said, I'm your guy. We had so much fun. They are still 15 years later in the watering holes and the taverns around there, still remembering what we did that night.